All right. There have been a lot of new names on our registration list for the session. So, if you're at a new job, congratulations on your new job. And thank you for attending the session today. My name is Rachel Fisher. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Member Services Librarian for Technical Services. So I provide the training and support for the Technical Services departments for our member libraries. This session may seem like it is a bit basic for some of you because it is on searching in LEAP, but I did want to make sure that I covered this because there have been a number of comments that we've received during LEAP month, and there are many new staff that are have been hired lately and some new libraries joining CCS. So I did send out an agenda, but I am going to just review this briefly. So there are some new functions that were added to LEAP with 7.6. They're pretty interesting functions, I think. So throughout the training session, I will be demonstrating them. I'll also be providing an overview of the different features and how to search in LEAP, from how to use the drop-down menus and filters to some of the more advanced techniques in LEAP, such as power searching in order to save your filters, and using SQL, and I'll end with some basic functions like navigation and work form defaults that are important a bit to searching to. First I'll begin with just an overview of the new functions that are coming with the 7.6 update. This is currently only in training. We have not scheduled our production update yet. With the new features, we are getting new settings and search capabilities with the Find tool. So the new settings include the option to display the ISBN and the title and author in the native language from the 880 field in your search results. So this is not the default. You'll have to enter into the settings and add those in and move those to where you want to. So I'll demonstrate that today. And for the new searching capabilities, you will have the ability to search for bibliographic records using a list of ISBNs. So I'll demonstrate that. And you can also search for non-circulating items. They've also added the ability to do ad hoc bulk changes from the results list. This has also been added to the list of local items and all items in your bibliographic record, which is really exciting. I know that everyone has been really wanting this to be added to LEAP. So I will point it out in the results list since we are just talking about the Find tool today. I won't go into depth on how to do the bulk changes. We'll talk more about bulk changes later on in the summer when I'll be holding our cataloging and LEAP training for 7.6. All right, so one moment while I switch screens. So the first thing I just want to briefly demonstrate, because we have a lot of new staff, is how to sign into LEAP and navigate to the training LEAP. So if you have it bookmarked, feel free to use that bookmark to log into training LEAP. But if you don't, you can easily log in by navigating from the CCS website. So this is www.ccslib.org. Under Member Tools, you can click on Member Tools A to Z. This has tiles to access a lot of our tools. So towards the middle, you'll see the tile for production and training. So you will need to click on LEAP Training and log in with your username and password. And then it will ask you to select your branch and workstation. I'll log in as Algonquin today, and then press Continue. Since we are working in training, the data is not up to date. It is only up to date as of our last data sync, which was May 3rd. So because will be giving you some time to practice using Leap, you are welcome to log in right now. And I will paste that link into chat too, so that you have that. All right, so the first thing I'm going to demonstrate in Leap is how to access it. So there's two ways to access the Find tool. You can use this quick access search bar at the top or click on Find. So the quick access search bar allows you to search for ISBNs, barcodes, titles, authors, and patrons. So I'm just going to type in an author's name, Amanda Gorman, and this will open up the Find tool. So you see a list of the bibliographic records that are about Amanda Gorman, as well as the ones that she has written. Does anyone have any questions yet on what I've covered?
Quick question, Rachel.
Yes.
I know you typed in her name first, and you didn't have to like put it in last name first. Can you do it either way, or is that required?
Yeah,
Last
either
name
way
first.
is fine. So when you type it into the quick access search bar, what it does is perform an all keywords field search. So you can see that that's selected here, and it's looking for the phrase. And it can find that in the records in any of these fields because it's looking for all keyword fields. And so it does see that in the ones that were written by her and not just the ones about her.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint 1 second. And I'm just going to review the different drop-down menus. So at the top, the design, for those that are familiar with the client, is different. So with the client, you have to access the Find tool by clicking on different drop-down menus for each of the record types. But with Leap, everything's been reorganized so that you only have one Find tool for all of the record types. So this first drop-down menu is the database drop-down menu. This is where you'll find your record types like bibliographic records. Bibliographic records, remote databases helps you to import records using Z3950 from OCLC. And this also includes item records, all of your acquisitions records and serials records here. So the next drop-down menu is called the mode. This is where you'll find your search modes. It's pretty much the same as the client. The only difference is that here you'll see the browse mode, but in the client, browse is in a separate drop-down menu for type. So they've just rearranged it a bit. And browse mode really is useful for bibliographic record searches. So I'll demonstrate that in a second. So this is just basically the example of basic search, like what I did before. It searches for the keywords and brings up individual records. This is what browse looks like. It's a bit different, but it's basically what you'd be familiar with if you were to do a browse search in the pack. And this displays the results by the authorized headings. So it includes authorized titles, series titles, the author's authority record as it appears in the the author as it appears in the author's authority record, and series titles. So on occasion, I get a question from someone like, what's the best way to search for series titles, especially when there's like multiple different variations on a series? Like for the Harry Potter series, there's been different variations over the years. So if you just type in Harry Potter, you can see all of those separate series and access the records linked to those authority records. Power search looks a bit more complicated than it really is. So you can see in this search bar that this is called Common Command Language and allows you to do Boolean operator searches. But you can easily set up your filters for a basic search and then switch to power search. So it's fairly easy to use. And we'll go into that a bit later. SQL querying is the most complicated search type that exists in Leap, but we have a number of saved SQL queries. So you don't have to know SQL to be able to use it. You really just need to know how to identify the numbers that need to be changed. So I'll demonstrate that a bit later. So the next drop-down menu is qualifier. This is where you'll find all of your keywords like barcode, title, author, and so forth. And the last drop-down menu is the relation drop-down menu. And this is the drop-down menu for selecting how Leap will do your search. So exact will look for the exact phrase as you typed in. It's similar to a phrase search. It will just look for those words. If you see that below exact, there's an asterisk in parentheses, that's a truncated search. So it would be the same as if you typed in the asterisk after your search terms, and it will look for anything that has that search term with anything after it. Keyword all looks for all of those search terms in any record, but we'll look for like both those terms, but they could be like in any order or any field, like it could be in different places in a summary. Keyword any would look for those in any record, but not all of those words would necessarily be in that record. So it's the least reliable, and could bring up like bring up records that just have the word the or it in it. So if you're looking for shorter titles like it, that's where exact would be better, and it would be easier to just search for the title. And phrase is similar to exact search. It's like searching for the phrase with quotation marks around it. And I just want to go into a bit more detail on truncation because I mentioned that with the exact search, it searches for a truncated search. So this would be like searching for a word with an asterisk or a phrase with an asterisk after it. And if, for example, on the slide, I have the word child with asterisk as the example. So this would search for child with anything after it. It would find childs, children, child with anything else after it, after that you could think of in other words. So you can use that asterisk before and or after search terms. So it would look for anything before that word and after that word. So if you typed asterisk house, for an example, it would look for anything before the word house. If that were in the title, it would look for titles that have house in it. So this could include this old house, Dutch house, and so forth. There's one other type of wildcard. We also call these types of truncations wildcards, and that's using the question mark symbol. The question mark is a wildcard only for one single letter, and you can use it to replace a letter. So on the screen, I have the example of women with question mark instead of E or A, and that would find results that have women with the E or woman with the A. Are there any questions about what I've covered so far? Okay, great. So I'm switched to Leap and I'm going to now demonstrate basic search. So for this basic search, I'm going to click on the Find button to open the Find tool. And doing the basic search, you would start by just selecting the record type you want to search for. So I'm going to stick with bibliographic records for my first search type. And you can see along these, the side, there's stars. So this allows you to set a default record type. You can do this for the record type that you find yourself searching for most often. So I have selected that as a star for bibliographic records. If you want to switch that, you can just click on something else and then press save, and it will switch it to item record or whichever record that you choose. And there's one other place where you'll find a star, and that's by this search box here. So if you find yourself using one specific type of keyword like title or ISBN may be most common for you, you can set your drop-down menus as a default and then press that star to save that. So the next time you come into the Find tool, you will see it automatically selecting these drop-down menu selections. So the one thing about this is, though, it does not save your filters. So I'll demonstrate that in a second, because we can do that with power switching. So to set up your filters, first you would click on the this filter symbol. It looks like a funnel, and it's right next to that star. And you would just click on Add Condition to add your filter. So I'm going to use Amanda Gorman as my example, and I will find books in Spanish about Amanda Gorman. So what I want to use is type of material to select book. So there's two, this is kind of a bit confusing because there's two different types of material. Type of material is from the bibliographic record, but item material type, which is, you'll see it when we bring up the item searches. That's just for the item records. So I'll just select book. And I want to find books in Spanish, so clicking on this plus sign will add another filter. You also have this drop-down menu for Boolean operators here for and or not. So I will find the language, and I'll select language and choose Spanish. And to add these filters, you need to press apply. I'm going to do a title search instead of ISBN. And I'll type in Amanda Gorman. So this brings up both book and ebook records when you use the book type of material. And you can see that these are the two Spanish types of materials. Spanish titles. All right, so before I do another search, I want to set up some of these new settings. So to access your settings, you would click on these three lines right next to that search icon and then click on column settings. So I've already added in title native script and author native script, but when you access your settings for the first time, you'll see them down at the bottom. So you'll have to check the box, and then you can move it up. I'll move author under author and title under title. And ISBN is unchecked. If you want to have the ISBN displayed, you can add that in. So you can click on any of these settings to move them up or down. The other settings that you have access to is along this right-hand side. So you have the ability to pin any number of these columns to the location at the beginning. So I'm going to pin title. So what this does is it keeps that column on the left-hand side. While you scroll to the right, you'll still be able to see it. You also have the ability in here to change the width to make it larger or smaller, but you have that ability too in the search result list. You can just click on the header and drag it. So I'm now going to press save. And you can see that this is pinned here with the little pin, but I can just change the size by dragging it. And you can see over here where the ISBN is now displaying. Okay. So I'm going to give you some time if you want to open up the Find tool and take a look at some of those new settings to see if you have any questions about that for me. Feel free to take some time to do that. Does anyone have questions about the settings and what I covered in the basic search so far? Feel free to unmute yourself or type any questions in the chat if you have them. All right, I'm going to move on. One thing I do want to briefly demonstrate is an item record search. So I just want to cover some of the issues with the filters here with item records. One of the things I know that I've heard comments on is that in the client, staff have not had to select assign branch when they log in, but they do in Leap. So when you do an item record search, it is important for you to set up that assigned branch filter. I'll choose one of our new libraries here because we've got records from them in here. So I'll choose Mount Prospect. And you can then continue to select whatever other filters you want. So I'll select a material type of Blu-ray. So here is where you would want to select that material type instead of type of material because it's material type in the item record. It's a bit confusing. So we'll do Blu-ray new. And I'll apply that and just search for the title. There may not be anything here. Let's see. So there are some new Blu-ray DVDs that they came up with the searching for dogs. So you can see that as a keyword search, it will find that in any of the records, and it brought up how in any of the records keyword fields, it brought up Paw Patrol. All right, so I'm going to now demonstrate some of the new features that are for searching. So the first one is the list of ISBNs. So I made a list of ISBNs here of Japanese records, so you can see how the title native search will look like. And I'm selected bibliographic records because this is only for bibliographic records. And for the qualifier, we use ISBN. To search for the list, you do need to change the relation to list. So type in my list of ISBNs. And here you can see that we have the title native script here in the second column for the title, and we also have the author native script in the fourth column. So you can see that when it doesn't have information in the AD field for the author, it actually has just put in the English version of the author here too. So if you do want to look at the native script, this could be useful for you. And we do have some new added features for record sets that you'd be able to now use the list of ISBNs to bulk add titles from a file using the file of ISBNs for the bibliographic records. And the next one that we have is for the non-circulating items. So this is information coming from the item record. It's just a checkbox to check whether you want it to circulate or not. I will use a filter and we will choose an assigned branch first. And I'll select Waukegan. We can see if Waukegan has any non-circulating items. And I'll press apply. So the next thing you'll need to do is open the qualifier drop-down menu and scroll down to non-circulating. So in the search box, you'll see it populate with yes and no. And you'll want to check yes to identify any non-circulating items. And then press search. It does take a bit long to find it. Okay, great. So we see that Waukegan has some special collections here that are non-circulating items. Great. Does anyone have any questions about what I've covered so far? Is there anything that you'd like me to demonstrate again, or that doesn't make any sense? All right, great. The next thing I do want to demonstrate is that you can send your records from the Find tool to record sets. So there's two ways to do that. One is by sending the entire list to the record set. You would do that with this record set options icon that looks like a shopping bag. So first you would check the box to send your results to your record set. Give the record set a title. You can use your own username for the owner, or you could change it to the branch. So if you want to share the record set with another staff member, you would want to select a branch instead of your username, and then press apply. So using the same search for non-circulating items, I would press the search icon, and then it has this pop-up of it's like a warning you how large the file will be. It would be more than 10,000 records. It asks you if you want to create this item record set. You can press create if you want it, or cancel. So instead, if you think that's too big, you can choose to select a number of records that you want to add to your record set and click on this add to record set icon down at the bottom. You can add it to a new record set or an existing record set. So when you click on it, it opens up the record set, and you would just type in the name of the record set and press save. So are there any questions so far? All right, I'm going to bring up a slide for a second to go more in depth into power searching. So one of the great things about power searching is that you really don't have to be an expert at it. You don't have to memorize these codes. You can set up the basic search, as I've been doing, set up your filters, and then switch the mode from basic search to power search and it will appear as it does on the screen. Then what you can do, because there isn't a way like using the star to set up the filters as a default, is by pressing that icon that looks like a disk that you can see on the screen. This will save your search so that you can save your filters that you commonly use. You can set up as many filter variations as you want. So this could be useful if you regularly um, try to identify anything that is new and needs to be denewed. And you can then add those records to a record set and bulk change them to remove or change any of the information about it, like shelf location from the new shelf location to the regular shelf location. So I'm going to demonstrate that. And I'm going to use an item record search. So we'll stick with this search for new items. And I'm going to add the condition of a signed branch. I'll choose Algonquin. And we'll look for things that are like, we'll look for new Blu-rays. So I'll select material type. And these will be Blu-ray new. And I'll press apply. So one option that you have is to search for the first available date to identify anything that is a specific age that would meet the criteria of when you would want to change it from a new to a not new item. So I'm just going to choose January 1st to January 31st. So this right now is a basic search. To be able to save those filters, I would switch to power search, and you can see right here, we've got the branch number for Algonquin and the material type for Blu-ray New, and the first available date settings. So then I'm going to click on this Save Search button and type in a name for my saved search and press Save. So now if you were to log out of it, come back at a later time, to access that saved search again, you would click Power Search, and where it says Unsaved, you can open it and then select your saved search. The only thing you would have to do month to month is change the date within this first available date section. Does anyone have any questions about this?
Rachel?
Feel free to, oh, yes, you were saying something?
Hi, Michael at Glenview. Are
Yes.
these saved searches particular to your login?
They are.
Okay,
Unfortunately, you cannot open it up with a different username to see it the way you would with SQL queries. It is just for your username. However, you're welcome to copy this, send it to your coworker if you want to, and they can save it too if you find that to be easier for them.
okay, thank you.
Sure. Are there any other questions? All right, we can take some time for you to try searching on your own. You can try to do a basic search, add filters. If you want to try to then switch to power search and save your filters as a search, feel free to do that and see if you have any questions or want me to demonstrate anything again while you're doing that. Does anyone want more time to practice searching, or does anyone have any questions? I don't want to go too fast today, so feel free to let me know if you want me to demonstrate anything or again, or want some more time to practice. Right, I'm going to switch to SQL queries 1 second while I bring up the PowerPoint presentation. All right, so on the screen, I have an example of a SQL query. We have a number of saved SQL queries. SQL does stand for Structured Query Language, and it looks a lot harder than it is because you don't have to memorize all of this information to create the SQL queries. You don't have to memorize the various code numbers to change. You only just need to identify where you need to change your branch. So here in this box, you can see that I've highlighted 2 rows that say assigned branch ID. So all of your libraries have a number or more than one number because there's one for each branch. And all you would need to do with these saved SQL queries is to know to change this number. So SQL queries are very useful for a lot of different things. So you'll find them for bibliographic records, item records, and acquisitions records. So the types of things that you can do with them include like identifying in-process titles that have holds and should be worked on first because you want to get those to the patron. You can use SQL queries to help you identify errors in records that need to be corrected, such as on order records that have items already in circulation. So those would need final records. And they're also very useful around the end of the fiscal year for the acquisition staff because we can use those to identify things like purchase order line items that have been received but not invoiced properly. So I'm going to access these SQL queries by changing this mode drop-down menu to SQL. So to access all of our saved queries, you would just need to click on Unsaved. And then this list comes up. So along here, the titles that are very descriptive, so you can pretty much tell what each one of them is. And I'm going to use in-process holds by your patrons. So this is going to identify any titles that are that have the circulation status of in process. So they've been received and they already have holds by patrons that are registered for your branch. So to edit your SQL query, you just need to press this icon right here that has an arrow pointing down and scroll through the list to see what looks like an organization ID or assigned branch ID. So with the example on the slide, it said assigned branch ID. So here we have an organization ID. And this is what you'd want to change, is this the numbers that say organization branch ID. And then just below it, it says owning branch ID. So you would need to change both of these rows to have your number in it. So if you have multiple branches, you would want to type in 2 numbers for each, or 1 for each branch, and separate them by a comma, but not a space. So I'm going to use Evanston as an example and type in 19, 70 in both of these rows. Then in order to make that change stick, you just need to press that caret icon again to close it, and then press the search icon to run the query. So here you can see in the status column, all of these are in process. And you know that these should be prioritized because these already have those holds by your patrons on it. Does anyone have any questions about what I've demonstrated so far? So I'm going to give you some time to practice this too, but it's a bit tricky to remember all of those code numbers for your library. So I'm pasting in the chat a link to a list of all of our member libraries. So the number that you will use is in the second column. 1 second while I log in again. It's this Polaris branch code. So you can do one at a time or two at a time if you have two branches, and type the number separated by a comma. Now for the new libraries, I haven't added that information in yet. So I'm going to paste your numbers in the chat for Mount Prospect and Waukegan. Cassie asked, what was the 70 for? 19 comma 70. So 70 was for Evanston's Robert Crown branch, and 19 is for the main branch. So you can search for them separately or search for them together with 19 comma 70. So for the new libraries for Mount Prospect and Waukegan, if you want to give that a try, I recommend starting with item record SQL queries. You should be able to find some that do have that circulation status of in process that came in, and the holds are in the system. So you should be able to repeat this query that I did, but there's also ones that you may be interested in checking out. We've got lost and missing that have been lost for more than 3 months. So I'll just demonstrate this again. Here you would just change that assigned branch ID. So I'll use Mount Prospect as an example and do 93, 94. And run the query. So here we've got a number of items that have come up that are labeled as missing at Mount Prospect. Now, if you are staff in acquisitions and you want to practice searching for acquisitions records, you can do that by changing your record type to purchase order line item, and then switching to SQL query in the mode. And you can see we've got on order for more than 6 months and Polly's not invoiced. So we don't have any purchase orders for the new libraries for Mount Prospect or Waukegan, but any of our existing libraries will be able to find something if they search for this. So feel free to take the time that you need to try a saved SQL search for the record type that you'd use. And let me know if you have any questions or want me to demonstrate anything again. Please let me know if you have any questions. We have plenty of time that I can answer them or demonstrate it again. I don't want to go too fast for everyone. I can go back and demonstrate a search if you need me to. If you need more time, let me know. I don't see any questions coming in. Is everyone ready for me to move on? All right, great. So that was the most difficult type of search that we have. So I want to demonstrate something a bit easier, and that's the navigation issues, because that's one of the things that I think is kind of different in the client, and I like to point it out to make sure everyone feels comfortable with navigation. So I'm going to do a bibliographic record search, and let's see. I'll do a title search, and I'll use the filter to find a serial. So I'm going to need to switch the type of material here to periodical. Your types of material for serial is periodical. So I'll check that and press apply. I'll open up National Geographic Kids. So the main thing that's different between Leap and the client is that you do not have all of the record types under the links drop-down menu that you have in the client. This only allows you to access the holds queue and see how it appears in the PAC or Vega. So in order to navigate between the records, it's kind of like only having the ability to go from one record to another. You would click on local items or all items. So I'm logged in as Algonquin, so it should have local items that appear here. Okay, here we go. Here's the local items for Algonquin. And I'm going to click on one of these to access an item record. So from here, you likewise only have the holds queue and the links drop-down menu. But you'd be able to go back to the bibliographic record by clicking on the control number here, or navigate towards the issue record by clicking on the control number for the issue record. You also have the option of using the work form tracker by clicking on the 3 bars in the upper left-hand corner, and then you can pin that open so you can see which records are open. If you close one, it does have a limited amount of work forms that will be able to be displayed in this recent list here when they're closed. So I'm going to move to the issue record here. So from the issue record, you'd be able to go back to the item record. You'd be able to click on the serial holdings record by clicking on the number, or the bibliographic record control number. So I'm going to navigate to the serial holdings record here. And from here, you'd likewise be able to click on the link to the control number. But this would take you to the serials check-in if you click on links instead of the holds queue. However, that's really like a roundabout way of navigating to it. If you're in serials, the easiest way is clearly to open the utilities drop-down menu and click on serials check-in. But if you needed to access record sets, the easiest way to do that from a bibliographic record or item record is either to search for it if you have the name of your record set, or to click on this tab for record sets. So this lists all of the record sets that bibliographic record is in. And if you switch to an item record, you can also access that here. but this record is not in the record set, so it would look the same as the bibliographic records. But we did get one comment from Leap Month that they wanted this to land immediately on the MARC view instead of that preview view when they open the record after they've searched for it, so that you can navigate right to where you need to be. And there is a setting that will allow you to do this. So to set up this default for a different tab, you would open up the drop-down menu by clicking on your username in the upper right-hand corner and press Settings. So this is where you'll find a number of different settings. So the first tab is for print options. There's a special loan tab and workform user defaults. So workform user defaults is where you'll change that default for the tab that you want to land on when you open records. You can do this for the check-in record, although normal is probably preferred. So for the item record, details is the tab that you'd probably use the most often anyway, because that's where you need to change all of your information in it. But then you can open up this bibliographic record drop-down menu and select MARC to save that MARC record as the default and press save. You also have the option for background processing to set up a default, but that's just for accessing those reports, such as for MARC imports and bulk changes. So I've changed it, and I'm going to navigate back to the record. Well, that was probably still open to that, so I'll close that for a second. And navigate to it from the item record. You can see that it immediately opens to the MARC record instead of preview now. So that's pretty useful so that you don't have to take that extra step to click on the MARC tab. Are there any more questions? So you can take some time to search for a record, open it up, play around with the navigation features of navigating from one to the other, checking out the workform tracker and see if you have any questions. So I did schedule today's session to be a bit longer than I need it to be, just so that everyone would have time to practice using Leap and make sure that you have any questions for me and that I can answer the questions. I did go through all of the material I had today quicker than I thought. So if you don't have any questions, I do want to point out that in the bottom of your agenda, there are links to the different resources that we have. There are links to the individual web pages for the different topics that I covered today so that you can see the step-by-step instructions. If you want to print them out, feel free to do so. So there's a link to that list of library codes for you to use for SQL queries, and also a list of all of our cataloging reports that include the SQL queries for catalogers, serial staff, and any that you may find useful for correcting records or identifying what you should prioritize. And we've also have the Introduction to Searching and Leap online course that you can use. And there is a webinar if you want to learn more about power searching that's been recorded. You can access that as well. So if you do have any questions, I do have time to take them. If not, I do have a survey that you can fill out. You can either scan the QR code in the agenda or PowerPoint. I'll send out a link to my PowerPoint presentation after the session is over. Or you can also use this link. I just pasted it in the chat. And you can access that and let us know what you thought of today's session. And if you have any suggestions for improvement or requests for training session topics, we are happy to hear what you have to say. So if you have no other questions, feel free to, we can feel free to end the session today and move on with our day. I see, Jessica, you said the link is giving you an access denied alert. I do have that problem every once in a while. If you click on home and then like log in again, you should be able to log back in. So you have to log out and then log back in, or press refresh, and it should be able to allow you to use it. Thank you everyone for showing up. Have a good day, everyone.